All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another live stream. I am here once again with Ship Superintendent of the USS KIDD Veterans Museum, Tim NesSmith. Tim, how are you?
There's a lag. What's going on?
There's a lag. Okay.
Here we go.
Okay, we're good.
We're good.
All
We're
right.
good. Doing well. Thank you. Good evening, everybody.
Excellent. So, how's your week been?
Well, my week ended pretty much Tuesday at noon. Had a doctor's appointment, went home for the rest of the day, and my wife is out of town for a conference in Fort Worth, and so me and the three little canine girls in the house have been bacheloring it all week. So easy week.
So, as soon as the live stream is over, everyone party at Tim's house.
Good luck. Hey, Mark. Hey, Anna.
Let's see who all we got in the chat this week.
Steve.
Oh, we had a little message here before we went live. Look who replied in your chat.
I see that. I'm curious who that was at Bama, but they're doing the old radio, check 1 2, check 1 2.
Now, Big Red, is that one of Bama's call signs?
I tried to look up her call signs on NavSource, but apparently NavSource has been down most of the day today, so I couldn't find it. So I figured, Alabama, red, for the football team. So I made it up.
Gotcha. Well, let's see who else we've got in the chat. We've got Steve joining us. We've got Eric. We've got Norbrook. We've got Mark. Am I missing? We got Aaron. We've got Karen. Am I missing anybody? Anna's here.
Mm-hmm. Skip.
Yep. Skip is Aaron. So I got him.
Oh.
Yeah. Let us know. Anyway, so Tim, we got a kind of a unique topic this week. I've been kicking around this idea in my head for a long time, and it's finally come to fruition. I know you don't play World of Warships, but you are familiar with the game, and I know you know, of course, that KIDD is in the game.
I worked with them when they first came and photo documented KIDD.
Oh, can you elaborate on that?
They came in January or February of 2013. Reached out, told us who they were and everything. They wanted to come, and they spent 2 days on board just crawling all over her like army ants and documenting and everything and asking lots of questions. And then there's a video on their channel. You can find it. I've linked it to KIDD's channel. There's an actual playlist called World of Warships where all the videos they've done on KIDD appear on our channel, and it's actually sitting on their channel. I'm just linked over to it, so when you click on it, you're going to World of Warships channel. But really good video they put together. It's about 13 minutes long, I want to say. Naval Legends, USS KIDD. Every time they put a new ship in, I think they do a Naval Legends on it. But yeah, they worked with me filming that. The funny thing about that video, it was very well done video. I have no complaints about it whatsoever. But it was cold and rainy on the 2 February days that they were here. And so I'm wearing kind of a camo jacket, kind of like a BDU jacket. And it's something that came from Walmart. It was a gift from one of our volunteers who was in the Navy. He's actually the father of one of my buddies from high school, college, one of my best friends from college. He's kind of like a friend who's not a friend. He's a friend who could be family, a brother sort of thing. And so his dad and his mom pretty much kind of adopted me while we were all going to college. And I had that jacket on, and it has no insignia on it anywhere, no names on it or anything. And when the video came out and hit YouTube, I'm looking at the comment sections, and this was really my first exposure to comment sections on social media, because I hadn't really done much beyond my personal Facebook page at that point. And all of the English speaking there was an English version and a Russian version, and the English speaking comment section was ripping me to shreds for stolen valor. Who does he think he is? Blah 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 blah. You know, where did he serve? I want to see. How dare he wear that jacket?
Wow.
That sort of thing. I mean, going like slathering at the mouth like rabid. And then I saw the Russian one. I'm like, do I really want to? And first rule of thumb, I was like, I'm not responding to any of this. I'm not getting into this.
Right.
A friend of mine had advised me. He's like, don't jump into it. He said, you will do nothing but stir the pot. He's like, and he referenced me to one of my favorite shows, West Wing, where Bradley Whitford's character jumped into a political discussion on a message board group that was dedicated to his character. And then the press secretary, played by Allison Janney, ripped him a new one and put an intern to watch that page from then on to make sure he didn't comment, because it turned into a whole superstorm sort of thing online. So with those two, I was like, I'm not getting involved. But out of curiosity, I went over and flipped over to the Russian language version of that video, and all the Russian speaking people in that comment section, after I would go through, and it was hundreds of comments, and I translated it, they didn't care a single bit about the jacket. That was not even on their radar. Instead, my hand was on their radar, and they're like, I wonder where he received his injury. Was it Vietnam? And they're like, no, he's too young for Vietnam. It must be, Iraqi freedom. No, he's too old for Iraqi freedom. And they were all going back and forth. I could have been injured in Vietnam, could have been injured in Grenada, Panama, Desert Storm, Afghanistan, Iraqi freedom. They were hitting everything. They were hitting a couple of clandestine operations that I had to look up on Wikipedia. I had no clue what it was. So it was a really interesting dichotomy between watching the folks in Russia reacting to the video and to me, and the folks in all the English speaking nations reacting to me. All the Americans were like, that son of a bitch. All the Brits and Aussies and everything, they were like, why are you saying that it's stolen valor? It could be just a jacket. I've seen this in the stores. And they're like, no, it's stolen valor. It was weird.
Did they not catch on that you work at the museum?
I can't answer that. But I encourage you, if you want a good laugh, go read through the English speaking comment section on that video sometime. It's hilarious.
That is insane.
The older you get. I haven't gone back to it for years, but it was funny.
Right. So that right when you started, you answered one of my questions before I can even ask it.
Okay.
So we were just looking at a picture of her in game, the very first one, and I'm gonna bring that picture back up real quick, and then we're gonna go to a real shot of her.
Okay.
So let me pull that picture back up. So I'm assuming this is from what they scanned or photographed, whatever you said, in 2013.
Correct.
So at that time, did she have the black funnel caps?
Yes, she did.
Now, I know last time you were here, not to cut you off, but you told us the story about the black funnel caps as a museum ship. Can you recount that for us real quick?
Yeah, sometime around, I want to say 2008 or 2009. I'd have to go back and look at it. Our director at the time, he just thought the black stack caps looked really cool in the old photographs and everything. And so when we had a field day coming up, in fact, it was 2000, it had to be 2009 or early 2010, now that I think about it, because we had gotten some scaffolding donated. And in fact, I can tell you, it was late 2009 because it was October, because we had the scaffolding up around both stacks and around the mast. Those hadn't been painted for years, because of having to get vertical on it. And so our ship superintendent, Bob Holt, was able to get scaffolding donated, and it was between jobs. So, they checked it in, and they're like, you can have it for X number of weeks at no charge, our donation. but we've got to have it back promptly on this date. And so we did what we needed to do, working around the weather, and we got everything painted. And since that was up, he took the opportunity, not Bob, but our director, he took that opportunity and said, I want you to paint the stack caps black. And we're like, that's not correct for the paint scheme for World War II. That came Cold War. And he's like, it looks cool, put it up. And so, yeah, pretty much we were told if we didn't paint the stack caps black that we were both going to be in the unemployment line. So the stack caps got made black, and they were that way for 8 years. We finally got them back to what they should be in time for Greyhound. Greyhound was the incentive to be able to get it back. So
good incentive, by the way.
Yeah, very good incentive.
So yeah, here she is as the museum ship, and there you can see it. The caps are black, and this was, you said this was Cold War. So I want to bring up another photo here.
Well, just having the stack caps black is Cold War. She was still in Measure 22. The caps were wrong, which every Fletcher class sailor that knew anything about World War II would come in and go, this is not correct. And we're like, you're correct. Well, so why do you have it that way? Well, our boss said we had to have it that way. And they kept wanting to argue with us about it. And we're like, we're on your side. We agree with you. Well, why is it that way? Because he thinks it's cool. Well, he needs to, well, you know what? His office is all the way, down the second floor, blah, blah, blah. And, go knock on the door and file a complaint if it's important to you. Because we need, we can't do anything. And he got eventually angry that we were telling people where his office was. But, it was his call. So
Eric and I have something in common. We both do photography, and he says a picture he has of the ship was back when she had the black caps.
The black caps? He said gray caps, I think.
Oh, did he say gray? I'm sorry.
Gray. Yeah,
his shot has the gray caps. So
your shot is correct.
Yeah, and the good thing is
for World War II. It's black caps are correct for Cold War, but the rest of our scheme was World War II.
This is one of the very first images that I ever took of her. And you can see the caps are gray.
You did some editing behind that, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay, all right. I was going to say, I'm like, that we didn't have all of that stuff on when we were going through the Gulf.
No. Well, this is in Baton Rouge.
Okay, yeah. You've just gotten rid of the background.
Yeah, I tried to make it look like she was in sea, in a very shallow sea at that, because she looks like she's sitting a bit high.
Her tanks are empty. Her ammo is depleted. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, pretty much. But no, the river was exceptionally high at that time, as you can see here, because she's floating. At least I think she's floating. And yeah, I've got the gray caps on her as well.
Very good.
So let's get into some video footage here, because I want you to take a good look at the rest of the ship and analyze it for us and see if you see anything that may or may not be right, if you will.
Okay. So, and for the viewers, if you see me lean down kind of out of shot for a minute or two, I've got one of my dogs in here with me just so that she stays out of trouble.
Let's see, video file. Okay, well, it's not doing that. Bear with me a second, everyone. Let's see. Let's do this.
Ozzy, the potato locker the spud locker is actually a paint locker for us. So the physical space is there, but it's not filled up with potatoes or make-believe potatoes.
So she didn't have a potato room per se.
She had a spud locker. Yeah, it's right outside of the galley. But yeah, we use it. There's no need for us to have potatoes on board because we don't want any food on board to attract rats. So we use it as a paint locker.
Fair point. All right, just about got this ready. And let's see, here we go. All right, and let me hit play. And I muted the volume. That way, we don't have to listen to that. Oh, real quick, does anybody know what ocean liner that is in the background? See if we get any answers. But anyway, Tim, lead us off here. What are you seeing here?
Real quick, Karen, yes, she does lift off from the cradle. She goes vertical. She does not go forward or back or port or starboard. She just goes straight up and down like a what do you call it? Like an elevator. What do I see on the model here? Let's see. So what am I looking for? What's
anything that may or may not be accurate to her configuration besides the black funnel caps?
Okay. Well, if you can scroll to where I can see the very front of the bow.
Okay, let's go back.
To do that?
I can walk us back here. Let's see.
Okay. All right. So right off the bat, one thing most of the game stuff does right there. You can stop right there. Okay. You notice the flagstaff on the front of the bow. That is something that actually can fold down. Now she is in port and sitting idle, so having that staff upright is accurate in this case. But if you're out steaming on the ocean, they pull a pin and that sucker folds down out of the way of the guns. And the same thing for the flagstaff on the stern. Those would go down flat on the deck so they wouldn't be shot up.
Okay.
And that's something, I mean, most people that are not familiar with the ship, they wouldn't know that. But, once you explain it to them, they go, oh, that makes sense. That would be in the way. So, Cap Arcona in the German port. Okay. Is this New York City?
It is.
Okay. Her rigging looks pretty good. I can't tell from this angle. Maybe if we go to one side or the other, it looks like they've got her fighting lights on her.
So what would that be and where are they?
They would be two sets of them would be one at the top of the mast, one set the middle of the mast, and the third set is actually on the outer bulwarks of the pilot house bridge. So we'll need to rotate around a little more.
The pilot house, where is the pilot house?
The pilot house is basically what most people nowadays call the bridge. Star Trek has ruined people about that. It's actually on the bridge. The bridge for a Navy ship is the level that the command center sits on. And the command center is called the pilot house, where they steer from.
So the flying bridge, I guess, would be like the old school term for the bridge.
The flying bridge is is on the roof of the pilot house above the captain. The bridge level has the captain's bridge, and it has the signal bridge, and then above it you have the flying bridge. So it can get kind of confusing when people are and it was confusing for me when I started. Come on out.
Yeah. Good. I think I'm going to have to hear it a few times before it sinks in, repetition.
Yeah. So it takes a little while, but if you look right above Mount 52, you see that square bridge, that squared off bulwark going around that deck house. That deck house is the pilot house. Okay. All the interior of that is the pilot house. The outer walkway going, say, from both sides around the front is the captain's bridge. And then from the sides, wrapping around the back where the mast and all the halyards are, that would be the signal bridge. And then everything that's canvassed off up above it around the Mark 37 gun director, that is the flying bridge. And that's where your lookouts would be. That's where your gunnery officer would be up there around the director, if not in the director. So let's see. Okay. If you stop it right there, bring your cursor, and folks, I'm sorry for leaning forward. I'm having to look over my glasses. If you bring your cursor to the left, toward the aft of the bridge, stop, nope, a little bit too far. Go back, a little more. Right there, come down. See that little box?
Yes.
That's one of the fighting lights.
Okay.
And the fighting lights are used And like I said, you should have one about the middle of the mast and one about the top of the mast. The fighting lights are used to identify yourselves in nighttime combat.
To your allies, I'm assuming.
To your allies, correct.
Okay.
And you can send signals with them and so forth.
Boozalot's got a question for us, or for you.
Bridge wing, if you look on the side of the pilot house and you come out, you'll have the bulwark coming around right there, James.
Yep.
See that little square area that kind of pops out a little bit further than everything else? You got a matching one on the other side. That is the bridge wing. They've got a Polaris there. You kind of stand out of the way, and right beside it, you've got the gun director for the 40 millimeters right in front of that deck house. So you're kind of standing out of the way of the main traffic, and you're able to sit there with the Polaris and actually, take your measurements and sightings and everything.
Steve's got us a question here.
They are multicolored. If I remember correctly, I saw some working ones at Slater in 2023 for Historic Naval Ships Conference. They've got theirs up and running, and we have plans. We just got to raise the money for it, but we have plans working with Barry Whitty, who fabricated some of their missing ones and got all of them working and wired and everything. Barry is going to come down and work with us we've got one set of fighting lights midway up the mast. We're going to get the second set on the mast, and then the ones on the bridge bulwark, and get those other two sets up and running and light her up at night.
Lovely.
Even though we're in port and we're not fighting.
I want to go back to here for a minute.
Okay.
On some of the ships in the game,
Hold on. Did I give the colors? I'm sorry.
I think you said they were multicolored. I don't remember.
They are multicolored. If I remember correctly, it's red, green, and white.
Okay. This here, right here, where I'm moving the cursor.
Yes.
On some of the ships in the game,
Mm-hmm.
As the turrets swivel, this thing swivels in the same direction as the turrets.
Correct.
I've noticed KIDD does not do that. Is that correct?
KIDD does not move?
Yeah, KIDD does not move. It stays stationary.
Well, if that's the case, then a follow-up question would be, if it's not moving, are all the guns moving in the same direction toward the same target, or are they moving independently of each other in different directions?
They all move in the same direction, to either port, starboard, whatever.
Okay, so then that probably is an error, because that's the Mark 37 gun director that controls the 5-inch guns. And when they are tied into that director, then they're going to all focus in on the same target. You can go into what you call local control, which in football terminology, it's a zone defense, where the director is no longer feeding them targets because there's too many targets coming in all at once for them to take them out, with one salvo and then going back to another target. So let's say Mount 51 down on the bow on the main deck will take everything from, let's say, 90 degrees off each side of the ship moving forward. I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. 90 degrees off starboard, let's say, moving forward to center line. They'll take everything in that zone. And then Mount 52, just above it, will take everything center line to port forward. And then moving aft, same thing for 54 and 55. One of them takes one side, one of them takes the other side. And then Mount 53 in the center of the ship behind the torpedo tubes would cover everything to the middle of the ship on either side and above, directly above.
So this is 51 over here, the forwardmost one. This would be correct. 52. And like you said, we're going to see 53 and 54 in a second as we go further aft. Here's something I've always wondered, was never sure about. What exactly, we see one of the whaleboats here with a starboard side whaleboat. What was the purpose of the whaleboats?
Whaleboats were used to, and are used, they still use them today, to take personnel, supplies, and messages either between ships or between ship and shore.
Now, I intentionally got up close right here because right here under this whaleboat is where the kamikaze plane hit, correct?
Yes, down on the side, right about where the blue meets the black boot top. So right above the waterline, right there.
So essentially,
Come
like right
come up
where I've got.
into the blue a little bit, just into the blue, and that's where he hit.
So about right here.
Yep.
And plane went straight through, or excuse me, the bomb went straight through out the other side, exploded off the port side, and the guys who were running to the port side that were trying to get away from the explosion got hit with all the shrapnel on the port side. Correct?
Correct. The port side damage looked a lot worse than the starboard side damage, where she took the hit from the plane, because the plane just punctured in. Unless you really know where to look, it just looks like a little bit of damage. You know, it doesn't look really bad at all. You get over on the port side, and she looks horrible. And the reason for that is that the bomb exited. Of course, an exit wound is always worse than an entry wound. And then she detonated and everything came back in on her. So you had that blowback, and that she's already compromised in that hole. And then the pressure wave comes back and just widens that hole out. And then peels portions of the superstructure wide open and then punctures all over the place.
Yeah.
Thank you, Anna. We put a lot of work into that. It may not seem like it, but Elijah was sick to death of listening to me talk by the time that was over.
On the plus side, though, I'm sure he'll never forget the story, and he can tell it pretty accurately.
Well, and the whole point of it was not just to have something on the kamikaze attack in detail, but to take and everything that I've collected in my head, you know, over the years, to basically just vomit it out. Roseanne, our director before Parks, Roseanne hated it when I called it a vomit tour, because I would train tour guides. I'm like, you're going on the vomit tour with me. I'm going to vomit everything I know out about the ship, and it's going to be 3-4 hours long, and then it's going to be in the back of your head somewhere. You're not going to give this sort of tour, but you've been exposed to the information. And then somebody someday will come up to you and go, hey, blah, 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 blah. And you're going to go, Tim told me about that. Boom, 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 boom. And I said, then you're going to be like, oh my God, I remember that. And right. She's like, let's call it an orientation tour. I don't like the vomit tour. But yeah, basically to vomit everything I wanted that I know from oral histories, from talking with crew members and everything, and taking 1 + 1 + 1 = 3, you know, that we figured out, but it's never been written down, and actually get it documented somewhere. And I actually got a really good compliment from Tim Rizzuto at one point. He in our many conversations over the phone, and he's like, I watched that video. That was really great. You need to go back and you need to redo the whole thing and make it a documentary. And then, you know, he had some suggestions, but he even brought up something about the smokestack that he had forgotten. And then when I'm telling about the smokestack, and Tim Rizzuto related this story to me about the shipyard after the attack, he's like, I completely forgot about that. He said, this is good why you've got the camera and you're recording this stuff, because now it'll never go anywhere as long as somebody doesn't erase it. So
correct.
So thank you for that compliment, Anna. I appreciate that.
Steve's got a question here, which is why I intentionally froze this side.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, here on the port side in the game, you'll notice the pirate is not there on the funnel.
Yeah. We noticed that when we started looking at the camouflage change for this dry docking. And in the past, in the early part of the war, the pirate was on both sides. And they brought the pirate back at Hunter's Point after the kamikaze hit. But in August of 45, there are pictures to where the pirate is apparently only on starboard side. It's not on the port side. which was really kind of a surprise to me. So the guys doing warships apparently really did their research on this.
So they got this right. There was a
Yeah.
point in
If
time
only
where
they
it was
could get
only
rid of
on
those
one
damn
side.
black stat caps.
Right, right. They just
Every
got
time
that
I
back
see it, I'm
on
like,
stat.
God, why couldn't they have come after after we got
Yeah,
it back?
fix that. Matt has a quick comment here. Super Tie, that's my gaming handle, by the way. You're not flying the pirate flag because I do not have the pirate flag in the game.
Oh,
But I do want to point out, I do have this little flag right here on the ship. It's called the Pearl Harbor Commemorative Flag,
hmm.
which I believe is appropriate to have on this particular ship, given who she's named for.
There you go. There you go. Here's a question for the chat that I have. Several years after they put Kid into the game, I think they put Kid into the game in 17. Hey Sam, uh, they came back. I want to say it was slightly after COVID. They came back, and one of their folks reached out to me, and they wanted to do um, they wanted to do something uh, to remember one of our crew that they had met while they were here, who is Leroy Jenkins, and they wanted to put him in the game as a commander or something like that. I said, well, he was just a seaman. He only did like 4 years and got out. I said he was not an officer or anything. They said that's okay. It doesn't matter for our commanders. He's specific to Kid, so let's get some information about him. Let's do a story. And they they asked me if I could do a write up on his history, and so I took the opportunity just to sit down with him. I'd known him for years, but to sit down with him and just pick his brain to death and learn as much as I could about him. And he did not quite understand how he could be in the game. Mike knows, but he kept wanting to see the video like it's a newscast or something. I'm like, Lee, it's not like that. And I tried to explain it to him, but you know, there's certain things about the internet that I don't understand, and social media, TikTok for one. So he was
I
kind
don't
of
do
in the
TikTok.
same boat. So,
I don't do
but yeah,
TikTok.
they released Leroy Jenkins as a commander, and I think you have to have Kid in order to earn him. So anybody that's playing Kid, look and see why how you can get Leroy Jenkins. He is a real person. And for if you Google Leroy Jenkins and USS Kid on the internet, if you Google him in that manner, Leroy Jenkins and comma USS Kid, you'll probably find photographs of him because in World of Warcraft, not World of Warcraft, maybe.
That
One
is
of the
where it all
fantasy,
started with the meme,
yeah, one of the fantasy games. Somebody there's a group of players, and they're about to go into a dungeon, and this one you can see on the
yep.
video. This one player is just going back and forth. His character's pacing. Thank you, Anna. Is just pacing, and the rest of them are planning because they know there's like 10,000 orcs or whatever bad guys on the other side, and they're going to wipe them out. They got to plan this carefully and heal up and all this. And this guy is just pacing. And after so long of listening to them chatter with each other about what their strategy is going to be, he just apparently walks over to the dungeon door and goes, exactly, Leroy Jenkins, taps it open, and they're like, no, no, no. And the horde comes out and just destroys them all. And so people would see our employee of the month plaque up on the wall by the elevator, and it had the picture of the current month's recipient, most recent month's recipient, and then a list, 12 little plaques showing who all had gotten it, in the previous 12 months. And Lee got it quite a bit. He worked quarterdeck for us, greeted visitors, and so they would see a picture of this older African American gentleman in his Navy garb and everything, and they go, "Oh my God, I found Leroy Jenkins!" Snap, and then they'd put it up, on Facebook or whatever. It was hilarious, and we're like, he doesn't know what World of Warcraft is to save his life.
There is not a single person in this chat watching right now, and myself, that in our wildest dreams thought we would talk about the USS Kidd and get Leroy Jenkins, World of Warcraft in that discussion.
It's a great story. It is so great. I started getting phone calls at one point when I was still working the desk, and they're like, I understand Leroy Jenkins from World of Warcraft, works there. I'm like, no, 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 no. No, this is not the same Leroy Jenkins.
So we got to get to a couple of chat questions here.
Okay.
Let's see. I got to scroll up a bit. I think we answered that one. Let's see.
I will say, if you get the chance to, you can go on to some sort of the forums that World of Warships has, and you can see Leroy's full story behind his service and him coming to work at the KIDD, and finally his retirement and everything. And I'm not excited about it because I wrote it. I'm excited about it because it's interesting. It's an interesting story to read.
Right.
What is the opening on the anti-blast shield? Not rectangular, and can it be closed? It can be closed. There is a piece that fits right in there like a puzzle piece, and locks tight for storms and such. Why isn't it rectangular? That's a good question, and nobody I have talked to, including the guru Tim NesSmith, can answer that. We have not found any documentation anywhere. Neither has Cass and Young, who still has theirs. Neither has the Nimitz Museum in Fredericksburg, Texas, who has the torpedo tubes and the blast shield from the foot. And we haven't found. We have plans that show it that way, but the plans don't say why. I theorize, and I've got nothing to back this up, but I theorize that the narrowness on one side and the width of the other, the narrowness is where the scope is looking out at your target, and the width is allowing the guy who's sitting there cranking manually the torpedo tubes around, if they have to go into manual mode. It's giving him a wider angle of view so he can see a little bit better to get around to his target. But I got nothing to back that up. That's just my gut with me sitting in the blast shield and theorizing. It was flown off and on. It depends on the task force that they were in and how tightly wound their admiral or commodore was. There are stories about them flying it and then orders coming down of no distinguishing features, take the pirate down, take the pirate flag down, and for the pirate on the stack, they would have guys that their job, whenever they would get near the carriers where the admirals were, or the battleships, to real quick go and drop down the canvas that we've got strapped around the smokestack so that it'll hide it. It's painted the same color. They greased up the pirate and everything. Same sort of thing happened with the pirate flag. They would get ordered to dress your signals, get that unauthorized stuff off of your mast, off your halyards. So it really depended on the admiralty. And as they got further along in World War II, it got tighter. And then Cold War, they would fly it for refueling or something like that. But then if they got around the main part of the task force, usually the carriers of the battleships, or a cruiser maybe, that had the task force commander on it, they would kind of run it down and wait until they got further out away from the center force and the commander, and then they'd run it up again.
So again, I can add to that. I mean, like you said, it just depends on the admiralty.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Now I want to stop here because we may see this. We do have some footage of her in action, which we are going to get to. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to stop here and point out that she's got depth charge racks on the side.
Mm-hmm.
They're on both sides, and in addition, she also has them on the stern, which we're going to see in just a sec here. But also, this piece in particular where I'm moving the mouse. What is that right
That is
here?
the torpedo crane. It
Okay.
telescopes upward, and then the tube, it'll turn at an angle, kind of maybe a 45-degree angle. And the tubes will turn at a 45-degree angle, and they'll line up, and then working in tandem with a crane on the dock, they will slide a torpedo out to where it's at some point the nose transfers over to the kids crane, and then they continue working it out until kids crane has got the whole weight of the torpedo, and then they're sliding it into the tube. It's an all-day process just to load 5 torpedoes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
We got a couple
Now,
of questions.
I've also heard where they moved them. As most Japanese can be able to.
I think he's going back to the
pirate and a pirate flag. That's correct.
Right.
That's correct. I've also heard torpedomen in the Cold War talk about having a barge come alongside. And yes, actually, both the 993 in the 80s and 90s and the 100 today had permission to fly the Jolly Roger. The 993's commanders, it seems, were a little more tightly wound. One of they were flying it in the Persian Gulf at one point during Desert Storm, from what some of the crew members told me. And the task force commander radioed over and said, "You're flying the Jolly Roger. That's not regulation." And they came back and basically yes sir'd him, which, if you know the military, if you're going overboard with the yes sirs, you're kind of like back talking a little bit. And so they, "Yes, sir, we're flying it in honor of Rear Admiral Isaac Campbell Kidd, killed aboard the Arizona in Pearl Harbor in 1941. Yes, sir, we're flying it in honor of the 38 crewmen killed aboard our predecessor off Okinawa in 1945. Yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir." And he finally was like, "Understood, thank you." And then when the captain came over later for a meeting, whatever, he's like, and I'm just using Bill as the name because I don't think they had any Bills, but "Bill, you're killing me. The world is watching, TV's cameras everywhere. Take that flag down." And so they took it down and like put it in a frame and put it down in the wardroom where the crew could see it all the time. But yeah, they didn't fly the pirate flag very much for the 993. The 100 is very much more politically correct, shall we say. They'll fly it on Pearl Harbor Day. They'll fly it on special occasions where they've won, like an E for excellence in a certain category. They'll fly it on Admiral Kidd's birthday. They'll fly it on April 11th when we took the hit off Okinawa. So they fly it. They don't fly it 100% of the time, but they'll pull it out and they'll fly it on a special occasion that makes sense, and nobody gives them grief about it that I've heard.
I wanted to bring this photo up for a minute because we can see she's got her name on the stern.
Yes.
Whereas in the game, she does not have her name on the stern. Is her name on the stern accurate to World War II?
Her name on the stern is accurate to World War II, but it would not have been white. And this is the same debate that Texas was going through, and the same debate that we'll probably be going through shortly when we get to painting the hull, which is for this measure 22 camouflage, the name should have been that same blue that is surrounding it, because the letters are welded onto the ship, or else scored onto the ship with a welder. But usually they'll have some metal letters that they've welded onto it, and that's what we have now. So at some point, somebody decided to paint them white. I can't tell you when they were painted white. I'd have to go back through the newsletters and look at the old pictures. But yeah, they should not have been ever painted white. And it's probably a museum decision about, people will see it from the shore, that sort of thing. So.
Okay. We did have a question. I wanted to get to Mark's question. Let's see. He's asking about lifeboats or life rafts. Let's see.
Life rafts. Okay.
He might have been referring to the whale boats. He's only seeing the one whale boat on each side. In the case of she's attacked, she's sinking, and we can get a shot right here.
Yeah.
You know, how are you getting the people off? I think we're probably thinking he might be thinking like Titanic. How are you getting people in lifeboats off the ship, etc.
Right. So in this shot right here, to either side of gun mount 53, which is aft of the torpedo tubes, you've got 4 rafts right there. 2 life raft racks, 2 rafts strapped atop each rack. And then, are you able to zoom in any, James, or no?
Not on video.
Not on video. Okay, so
Let me see if we pan over some more though.
I don't see them. I don't think. No, they're. Oh yeah. They're. Well, let's see. Is it? Yes. Okay. So it's a little bit too far forward. Okay, you can stop. Look back at Mount 45, right where the aftmost depth charge K-gun rack is, and go up toward the deck house. Right there, you've got floater net baskets. There's one there and one matching it on the port side. And what those are just nets with wooden floats on them, balsa floats, and they'll have some ammo canisters sealed up, powder tank canisters, and they will use those to have fresh water. They'll use those to have long, like lasting food, like hardtack, like biscuits, that sort of thing. Some candy bars that don't melt. And those will automatically deploy in the event like the ship goes down really fast. There's no cap to them or anything. They'll just float out, and it's something for the crew to gather around and hang on to, and it keeps them all in one location instead of scattering out. Right. Up even with the right there, even with the Mark 37 director comes straight down, you've got a raft kind of overhead at an angle above the main deck. There's a matching one on the other side, and then right below the twin 40s, you see one sitting vertical under the gun tub. There's a matching one over there. So you've got 2, 4, and 8 life rafts total. Now you will see 2 in this version, and that's a museum inaccuracy. Right beneath the whaleboats, you've got a life raft leaning up right there, and a matching one on the other side, I'm sure. That's what the World of Warships folks would have seen in 2013. We have since corrected that. And when we put stuff back on for getting out of the shipyard, we will leave those 2 off. They were there for display, for tours and everything. But for accuracy, we're not putting them back on. Instead, we'll have them restored. And as we need to pull one off, we'll pull 2 off, to fix them up. And then we'll slide these 2 in their place.
Eric, you are correct, by the way.
Yes, that is correct. 40 feet on the average. She had 330 crewmen, or crew. So out of that, 300 is enlisted, and 15 chiefs and 15 officers. 15, 16 officers. From what I understand, the Mark 14 and the Mark 15 torpedoes, one was for subs, one was for, I love that blimp. Sorry, distraction. One was for subs, one was for surface vessels. They were pretty much the same torpedo. So the subs were having this, the destroyers were having the same problem with their torpedoes early in the war that the subs were having with theirs. So essentially, it's just what can fit down inside the submarine versus what can fit on the deck of the ship.
Right. Is there anything else you're seeing as we're scanning through this that may or may not be fully accurate to the ship?
The port side whaleboat would actually have a canvas cover on it because that served as the captain's gig. That's the only difference in it. They're identical otherwise.
And is it just me, or like the dark blue here under the haze gray? Is that a bit too blue? Because it doesn't seem that blue when I'm looking at the ship in person. Or is it just
no? It's accurate.
Okay,
it's accurate. Let's see.
So I think you might have just answered that.
I can't answer that, Sir Boomsalot. I'd have to research a little more. I have actually been reading up on them some, but that's not sticking in my head. One of the USS KIDD museum guys is going to be coming down later this month and or next month rather. And actually, go back, James,
Let's see
if you can. Right there. Oop, too far. Let it play forward till you get those life rafts right at the center of the screen.
Right
But
here.
one of the COD guys is coming, and we're supposed to. There you go. Stop. So if you look inside that vertical raft there, you see the powder tanks that I was talking about, where the supplies are.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, one of the COD guys is going to come down. We're going to be doing some joint videos, like we did with Sullivan's, like we did with History X and somebody else. I forget who else we did ones with.
I think you had Ryan down.
Yeah, with New Jersey. That's right.
So, Matt's got.
And right above, look above the forward davit, the forward crane for the whaleboat. You see the little fighting lights right there?
Yes, right here.
There you go. That's a good shot of it. They did a lot of research. I got to give these guys credit. And I've got a picture above my desk in my office at work of a CG rendering. They framed it and presented it, and our boss didn't have any interest in it. And I'm like, I'll take it. And this was made before they came to Baton Rouge, and it's fantastic. The only thing that I found wrong with it is that they're out at, like I said, they are out at sea, and that little flagstaff on the bow and on the stern, those are not folded down. And at some point, this was made before they finished the rendering, and the quad 40s at the center of the ship are missing. But other than that, it's gorgeous. I was blown away when I saw it. Nice. How does the torpedo launcher actually work? Is it air pressure, a hydraulic ram? Actually, everybody always thinks about the air pressure and hydraulics and everything, but this goes back before all of that. The air pressure stuff, air launching, came in World War II from of course, the submarines used it, but for surface ships, the PT boats, Higgins developed an air launch system on there. But for the destroyers, it didn't make it up to the destroyers until post-war, until the Cold War era. They launched these things with black powder, just like they launched the K gun. The K guns launched the depth charges. So, yeah.
I want to point out something here because you guys covered this in a recent video. I want to say on the gun tubs, you guys are fabricating, if memory serves, to put like replicas of the shells that would have been here.
Not replicas of the shells, but the racks the ammunition racks. Yes. Now we do have brass and we have replica projectiles, and we've got the old World War II clips. We've just got to get somebody that can fabricate the racks for us. And I pointed out the floater net baskets right on the front between the two 5-inch guns. You've got a floater net basket right there. And then you come aft a little bit to the aft forward stack, and you've got one right beneath the pirate and on the other side matching. And then back beneath the aft stack, you've got another set right behind the quad 40s, right there above the rope spool. Okay, so you've got those floater nets all over the place, and they did a good job. But one thing I'm noticing, the World of Warships guys, for all the ventilation outlets, supply and exhaust on the deck houses, they've got the gratings that we just got rid of. And louvers should be there, but of course that's a very fine detail. I'm not going to bash on them for not getting it. They've got the louvers on the stacks themselves, which were there when they came. So, and
going back to what you were saying, they scanned this in 2013 or so, and this would have been what was on the ship.
Nobody has toured the ship yet, outside of people that have been able to come aboard while we're in dry dock to see the louvers we've got now on all the supply stuff. I think people are going to be surprised when they see it.
Steve, thanks for hanging out with us. I appreciate it. Coming by and hanging out with us for a little bit. Steve's got a bail.
Thanks, Steve.
And let's see. So, is there anything else you're noticing? I mean, it sounds to me like, with the exception of the, of the caps, it seems like they pretty much nailed it.
They did a fantastic job. I really got to say, got to hand it to them. They captured a 1945 ship fairly well. I do see one small mistake on the stern, but it's very, very small, and that's one of the mushroom vents is a little bit too far forward, but that's me being nitpicky.
Right. So that's really not a big deal.
That's not a big deal. They actually have the mushroom vent, so the fact that they have it is fabulous.
Right. So with that, let's go ahead and I'm going to.
Sorry for everybody that's had to look at my shiny forehead all this time.
Let's see. All right. Let's see. Let me get out of this video. We're gonna look at Kidd doing her thing in action.
Okay.
So let me bring up a video real quick. I've got several for this purpose.
Incidentally, I've got a $5 bounty for any World of Warships players that can give me gun camera footage of Kidd in the game sinking cod. So
I tried so hard. When you agreed to this, man, I started playing the last few nights. I tried so hard, but I got something that you might get a kick out of a little later.
Thank you, Anna. I wear it proudly.
So here we go. And by the way, guys, I just want to mention, if anybody would be interested in donating or doing like super chats tonight, if you're on my channel, hop on over to the kids channel and do that. That way the museum will get those funds. So I just wanted to throw that out.
And if I could, let me pause for a second and answer Matt's question. So Matt, yes, the black powder charge propels the torpedo out of the tubes. And it looks, when you see video of it, it looks like it's in slow motion, but it's just this long torpedo coming out. It takes forever for it to come out, it seems like. And then it drops, looks like it's going to hit the edge of the ship as it drops down, but it drops cleanly into the water. There is a little switch, like my finger, that when the torpedo is into the tube, it's folded back into the body of the torpedo. And it's spring loaded. So when it clears the tubes, that switch pops up and it activates the steam engine that's in the torpedo. It's a little small version of basically what the Kidd would have. And they use, thank you, Skip.
Thank you, Aaron. We appreciate that. Aaron's got the ball rolling here.
There you go. They use wood alcohol and compressed air to make the steam. The torpedomen were famous for over ordering the wood grain alcohol needed to do the torpedoes. Thank you, Mike. And
Mike, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
They would, in one instance, we had a guy who, a volunteer, he served on the Mulaney in the Cold War, and he discovered his supply officer did not pay a lot of attention to the ordering. He just basically, kind of like Colonel Blake on MASH. I'm rewatching MASH now. Radar sticks a bunch of papers in front of him, and he signs them all. And he's like, "What's that for, Radar?" "Well, this is the paper to say that you signed the paper, that you signed the paper last week," that sort of thing. And Blake just is like, "Okay, whatever." And this supply officer on the Mulaney apparently did the same thing and signed it without looking at it. And our guy kind of walked away. I'll call him Frank so that he can maintain his anonymity 60 years down the road. Yeah, he walks away, and then he realizes he signed that without looking at it. And so he waited a day and came back with the same requisition, just not signed now, and said, Sir, can you sign this? What's this for? Wood grain alcohol for the torpedo, sir. Didn't we just order this? Yes, sir, but the paperwork just got screwed up and I had to redo it from scratch. I'm sorry, sir. Yeah, okay. And he signs off. So now he's got two 10-gallon cans of wood grain alcohol. So one of them was used for the torpedo tubes. And then when they take and like get supplies, food supplies and everything. Thank you, Matt.
Matt matches the 40. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it.
When they get supplies for food, it's an all hands thing, just like moving ammo. All hands go out, and the chiefs are standing along the way to make sure stuff gets where it's supposed to. And every single chief or officer will be standing there, and they'll see something. What do you got? I've got baked beans, sir. He'll break his neck, jerking his head to the side, like get it out of the line. And each division officer and chief will squirrel away a little bit of food, creamer, whatever is their particular liking. So the guys in charge of the torpedoes squirreled away a crate of oranges.
Eric,
thank you,
Eric.
You
for the 20, Eric.
That makes 100, huh? A little bit of 104, I think.
104.
Yeah.
If you round up, 105.
So yeah, they stole the crate of oranges, stuffed it away somewhere, and then they stole a hypodermic needle from the sick bay, and they injected all of these oranges with this wood grain alcohol, and they're walking around in front of the officers and everything, eating oranges. And the medical officer and supply officer were like, "We're really impressed. You boys are being health conscious, eating healthy foods. Good for you." He said, "We were drunk off our rear ends while right in front of them. They had no clue." So yeah, that's how they powered it, with that distilled alcohol, not distilled, wood grain alcohol and water to make the steam.
So I want to get your thoughts on how fast she's going to pick up speed from a dead stop. So here we go. Watch how fast her speed's going to climb. Considerably faster than a battleship or a cruiser in the game.
What's she doing right now? 37? No.
She's up to 30 right now. What was her top speed?
37 knots.
Okay. So she's a little bit faster in the game when she hits top speed.
Which is just over 40 miles an hour. Nothing you would want to water ski behind.
Right. So you see here, she's at 37.8, and she's topped out at, here we go, 37.8, 37.9. So this would have been.
Can be done if you're throwing the kitchen sink. If you've got everything open, you got the safeties tied down, you can get that high. Not for long periods, and not wise to do it.
Right.
And the thing I'm noticing here, I can't tell you how fast she accelerated. I don't know that for a fact. But
okay.
The rocking and the rolling to port, and the up and down with the yaw, I don't know if that's the right word, but the pitching, that's fairly accurate. When we went in the Gulf with her going to shipyard, the guys on board, looks like she's okay. It looked like she was Tokyo drifting there a little bit, but that would actually, the way the wake was, the way the water was spinning, that looks accurate to me. But the guys from TNT Salvage were experiencing what little roll we had, and they're like, "Man, this is calm water," and she's got a 2-degree roll. It was fairly almost like placid. And she had that 2-degree roll, and they were like, "Man, imagine what this would have been like aboard her out in the Atlantic, underway. This would be crazy." So they were impressed with the narrowness causing the roll.
I want to pause the video. I want to pause the video here for a second. As you see, we created the smoke screen. That's what that white line is on the water. She's engulfed in her own smoke right now.
Oh, okay.
Did they really do that? And under what circumstances would you actually set up a smoke screen in like a combat type situation?
Combat situation with a smoke screen. First of all, you got to have smoke screen generators. And in this configuration, she does not have generators. So The only way she's able to make smoke is with her smokestacks in this configuration.
Okay.
In 43, she had 43 and maybe 44. I'd have to go back and look. Um, she had uh, she had smoke generators on her fantail, and the perfect example of what smoke generators were for um, is in the story of Samar, and you can actually see photographs of them doing this. The destroyer escorts and the destroyers were laying a smoke screen to hide the rest of the task force as the flat tops were fleeing from the Japanese in that particular battle. Um, so they had the smoke generators. Mike, I would be making it up if I told you what they burned in the smoke generators, but it was several flasks sitting back on the fantail, and then the smoke generator room would be underneath, and it would run it through a whole series of flasks. It looked like a science lab, and then it comes out a small funnel on the back. Thank you very much. I appreciate that,
My
James.
pleasure. I
Um,
had to match.
that battle on the kid channel somewhere. Yes, Anna, you can look for God, what's the name of it? Something about the small boys. It should be in the kid keynotes playlist. Um, but yeah, they would lay that smoke so that you basically can't see and can't target as well. And of course, you adjust the oxygen flow into the boilers to generate smoke from the black or white smoke from the funnels from the stacks.
Now, here, uh, and all the ships have this, you can switch between high explosive shells and armor piercing shells. Oh, we
Mhm.
just sunk a ship, by the way. Would she have done that in real life?
Oh, absolutely. The upper handling rooms, and when you tour the kid now, you can see the different types of ammo that would be there, different types of explosive ammo, the armor piercing, the fragmentary, what they call fragmentary nowadays, we would call shrapnel. Oh, they called it shrapnel back then. We call it fragmentary nowadays, modern day, which was basically for the aircraft. And then the star shells, which were for illumination. You fire a star shell up and it lights up and goes away. Did she really load their guns that fast in real life? The average rate of fire for a 5-inch gun was 15 rounds a minute. We have oral
Wow.
histories from crew members who clocked 18 to 22 rounds a minute. I think Parks has said that at some point we got a fire on board. Parks has said at some point during the Battle off Samar, Johnston and Hull and Heerman were popping out 25 rounds a minute. Now that's the same sort of situation as the shipyards doing a push to get the most ships out of the shipyard as possible. So like December of 43, they tried to double the number of ships they're launching, which I want to say they did for the month. But then you look at the numbers for January, and January is far below the average that they were putting out because you burn your workers out, and so they have to have time to recover and recuperate. And then February is back up at the average again. It was kind of a political thing. How many we can put out at one time. So for the gunnery, yeah, they can get up to 18, 22, 25 rounds a minute, but your gun crews are going to be depleted a lot faster because lifting 55-pound projectiles every 25 times a minute that burns through your upper body torso quite a bit. Um, they always talked about gunner's mates. Gunner's mates looked like Popeye in the upper body and the upper arms and the forearms.
Yeah.
And they said when you went on Liberty and you knew you might be running in some drunk Marines, you always brought a gunner's mate with you. So
Now, she also has a speed boost in this. Would she have ever had something like that? And or is that just like just a game mechanic? You see down here, you see number 3 down here.
yeah,
When you hit that, it gives her accelerated speed beyond her normal top speed for I think it's a minute and something. Was there ever anything like that, or is that just a game mechanic?
mostly a game thing. I mean, you can increase the fires under the boilers to generate more steam quickly. But like I said, that's you having to tie off the safeties, because there's safety valves that will pop and relieve that pressure if you're going over pressure. So it's not a smart thing to do. You can do it for a short amount of time, but it is definitely not manufacturer recommended.
Right. And that's making me think of, like, the kamikaze attack. The forward engine room got damaged. So when she, I guess,
Fire room,
fire room, sorry,
forward fire room, yeah,
forward fire room. So, but she's got 2 engine rooms on board, correct?
correct.
Yeah.
Fire room, engine room, fire room, engine room.
How would the damage to the front, to the forward fire room, affect the forward engines and us overall, the ship speed, if at all?
What happened was they lost steam to their engine room, and so everything, the turbines slowed down and ground to a halt, and the turbines for the electrical generators for that engine room also slowed down and ground to a halt. And that meant that the front half, and this is something not a lot of the oral histories talk about, but it had to have happened. And I have one guy that talked about it who was in that engine room. Their engine room went dark because that engine room is the one that and that fire room is the one that generates. Well, I'll take that back. That engine room has the generators that generate all the electricity for the forward half of the ship. So when they lost steam, that generator, or generators in that room, lost steam and couldn't turn their turbines anymore. And so those generators stopped producing electricity, and everything browned out and went down. So the front half of the ship had no power, apparently. Now at that point, the emergency generator probably kicked in just after the enlisted mess deck. That probably kicked in and picked up the load until they got steam transferred from the aft fire room to the forward and the aft engine room. The aft fire room was providing steam for both engine rooms at that point. But they don't talk about the brownout and blackout that much in the oral histories, except for that one guy.
We just torped that ship there. You see, we've got a reload time here on the torpedoes.
Yeah.
And I asked you this question in private. You've already given me the answer, but give the chat an answer. What was KIDD's torpedo reload time?
0, because there are no reloads. You have 5 torpedoes in her current configuration. If you had 2 sets of tubes, you had 10 torpedoes. That's all you've got. You're not carrying spares on board.
And in this configuration, of course, she originally had the forward torpedo tubes, but they were removed when she went to the Pacific. So she had 5 torps, and that was it.
That's it. Until you go alongside a destroyer tender, or you go back into port and reload.
And that's one of the things the game takes a little liberties with, because you have multiple Fletchers in the game. KIDD, of course, being one. Black is another. Your Fletcher is another. And they all have like different torpedo reload times. But of course, all the other Fletchers also have their forward torpedo tubes still on the ships.
Right. And a good example of that is Chevalier, which was sunk in the early days of the Guadalcanal campaign. A Japanese destroyer with a long lance torpedo blew her bow off, and I think it was Chevalier. I'm pretty sure it was Chevalier.
Now, is that a Fletcher?
She's a Fletcher, and she now has just a flat front end. It blew that bow off, and she's digging into the water real hard, and thus she's fishtailing to one side because the engines are still going. And then one of the destroyers behind her, because she's dug in, it's almost like putting an air brake on. All of a sudden, she digs in deep into the water, and the stern fishtails to one side. And now it's almost like a Mahan maneuver where you cross the T, the old sailing ships. And now she's still sitting astride of the path of the destroyer behind her, because they were all running in line so they could fire their torpedoes at the Japanese. Japanese hit them first. And So now that other destroyer runs right into her aft engine room and just shears into the hole there. Doesn't cut her in half, but does knock the port side shaft out of operation. And the captain of this, I want to say it's Chevalier, orders, they had fired off some fish, but he still had 5 fish left because he was holding them. You use them conserving because you don't have reloads. And so, yeah, he still had 5, and now he's got fires on board, and the ship is sinking. And so he ordered his torpedomen, take that destroyer under fire. And there, as they're sinking, she fires off her last 5 fish just to get rid of them. And she takes out the Japanese destroyer that took her out. So both of them went down.
I do want to go back because I had another question about the different shells, the high explosive and the armor piercing. Can you give us an example of a situation for each one? In what scenario would she shoot the high explosive? In what scenario would she shoot the armor piercing?
Well, armor piercing, I would think, is going to go with the bigger ships. If she's going like Johnston and Heermann and Hull, going up against cruisers and battleships. But I mean, ideally, the thing you're going to use against the bigger ships is the torpedo tubes. They're scared to death of those torpedoes. They can't maneuver as quickly and as sharply as a destroyer. Yeah, that turn radius right there, that is not a World War II rudder on that destroyer. Not even a Cold War destroyer. But yeah, you would use the torpedoes because once the fish are underway, it takes a lot of time to move a big ship like that, to turn it. Yeah. They are not agile, even though the Iowas could outturn a Fletcher in World War II because of our crappy rudder design. But yeah, once those fish are in the water and they're fast, and if you've gotten close enough to fire them and you're a big ship, that big ship's in trouble. So, and in several cases, like Yorktown was going down and they fired a spread, and the destroyer that was Hammond that was escorting her as she was under tow, Hammond took one of those fish to protect Yorktown. So if any of her destroyers are around, then they're going to be trying to take those hits for her instead. But yeah, the 5-inch guns, armor piercing would be the way to go with the bigger ships. The high explosive, it could be used for ship to ship. It could be used for shore bombardment. We did a lot of shore bombardment during World War II in Korea. So having high explosives going off on bases and supply trains, like in Korea, we were taking out railroad trains, knocking out supplies. It could be used for that. Any number of things. Anything that you want to blow up, high explosive is going to be useful.
Well, and while we're looking at this, I want to go into formation. Oh Lord, we're about to eat a torp here. We're seeing like all this, she's by herself, and a lot of the other ships are by herself. But like in the kamikaze attack, for example, there was a formation that she was in. Yes. We wouldn't have seen all this random gung ho stuff. And I want you to correct me. I want to see if I got it right, and I want you to correct me if I don't. But essentially, like a box, there were 2 forward, 2 aft, like like in a box. Kidd would have been bottom left, Black would have been bottom right. Do I have that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
If you're looking at it from above, yeah, Kidd bottom left, Black bottom right.
Okay. Now you were talking
that box formation isn't necessarily the standard that everybody uses. It was what they were using at that point in time. There's any number of formations that they can use. Sometimes they're running, like I said, one behind the other in a line. Sometimes they're running side by side at a distance of 1,500 yards or so. So they're coming at you like this. So there's several different formations for different types of scenarios.
Now, going back to your point that you were just making about, the capital ships, they can't move fast enough once these fish are out of water. She's sinking a battleship right here. Look at the hull number.
We can pretend it's Bama.
Well, it is.
Is it? Oh, wow.
Yes. Look at the 60. Oh,
I
let
didn't
me
catch it.
let me pause. Look right there.
I'm a doggone. Okay.
That was not intentional, by the way. I love you, Bama.
I give Bama crap every football season for the SEC, so
Well,
they're
of
used to
course
it.
we do that. But I'm trying to think. Did I have any other questions performance-wise? And I don't think I have any. Is there anything you want to touch on that we have not covered thus far, as like her performance?
I'll take a moment to answer Mike's question. If a 5-inch AP shell could penetrate a citadel on a battleship at close range, I'd be shocked because I've stood there inside Wisconsin Citadel, and dude, I can't imagine anything other than artillery coming from naval artillery coming in from another battleship that would pierce that, and it would have to be multiple hits. That is some thick steel. Well, just to be clear, Sir Boomslut, our beef is with North Carolina about them shooting us. Bama, it's just trash talk for football. That's all it is. We love Bama. In fact, once we get our YouTube team reassembled, which is coming, I promise, then you join the stream to see us talk smack about Alabama. Great. Tune in to our social media when LSU and Alabama play, and you'll see a lot of that.
Oh yeah.
But in fact, any team that has a museum ship in their state, we talk smack to. So where was I? I'm sorry, I lost my track. Yeah,
we've covered this in the past, but go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, let me finish Wisconsin real quick. Wisconsin, thick metal. I cannot imagine a destroyer ever penetrating that citadel. Ideally, what a destroyer could do if they're down to just their gunnery to take on a battleship, take out the 5-inch guns, that the secondary battery. I don't think they're going to do much damage to the main battery for a battleship, but they could. They're not going to. I doubt they would puncture the waterline armor belt at all, but they could mess up the gun directors. They could mess up the 5-inch, the secondary battery. They could puncture some of those deck houses and set fires. Just rake those decks.
So. Before you get to North Carolina, there was another question. I knew I had one, and this picture is what it's about. This is a picture of her dropping depth charges. She's got the depth charges on the side. She's got some in the rear. And I tried getting footage. I did attack a sub in the game. I tried to get footage of that, but it got messed up. But in the game, she's only ejecting from the sides of the ship and not from the stern. Would there have been any reason why she would have done like one side and not the other, or just depends on what the situation called for?
It's a situation. They kind of covered that obliquely in Greyhound, where they were dropping full patterns, which would be from the stern and from the K guns on the sides. But there's a certain amount of, just like the ammo, there's a certain amount of depth charges that they have, and if they're running low, then they're shifting the number that they're dropping and the pattern. So if they're passing to one side of the sub instead of directly over, they may be launching just from one side with the K guns. It's really just the situation that they've encountered and how much they have in supply.
Did she ever successfully depth charge a sub that you're aware of?
Not that we found any record of. There's nothing on their scoreboard for World War II, and nothing in Cold War in Korea that they encountered a sub. They dropped a lot of depth charges, but nothing confirmed.
Gotcha. Okay, I'll be quiet now so you can answer Anna's. What did the North Carolina do?
Anna, I'm going to give for the sake of brevity, I'm going to give you something to search for. I'm going to give you homework because I'm an educator, but I'll give you a thumbnail sketch. if you go to, for the homework, if you go to the Facebook, I'm sorry, not the Facebook page. If you go to the website, usskid.com, go to the search function for the site and put in the word Carolina, not North Carolina, because our search engine on there sucks and it only takes one word at a time. So search for Carolina and you'll see the oral histories from the Remember Back When section pop up, and read all the stories there about the North Carolina. I do not see our friend from North Carolina in the chat, D.H. Carpenter, volunteers on the North Carolina. So we trade barbs a little bit, good-naturedly. But essentially, North Carolina and KIDD were involved as they were sailing, I think, toward Wake for the bombardment there. They were doing war games, exercises. And KIDD was supposed to come in and do a mock torpedo attack. And North Carolina did not know. North Carolina was the target. They did not know that, when it was coming, where it was coming from, who was attacking them. They just needed to be vigilant. And if KIDD could fire its torpedoes on paper, by the time they got into torpedo range and they had not been sighted, then they win. If North Carolina sights them, they fire off star shells to light up the night over KIDD, and if they do that before KIDD was able to get their signal that they got their torpedoes off on paper, then they win. And KIDD got sighted, and they fired star shells, and they forgot to elevate, so they fired star shells right through KIDD, and hilarity ensued. And I'll leave it at that and let you have the enjoyment of reading the crew's original words. And anybody else that wants to go to the website, you can find it. Just search for Carolina.
Sorry, I'm doing a little math real quick in my head over here. So we have raised him thus far for about $145 for the museum.
That's awesome. Thank you. Oh,
and we just got another $20.
Cajun Navy Clan.
He's kid for the world ship. Do you remember this event, Tim?
I remember the event. I was not there for it. It was a Saturday, and it was right before COVID hit. In fact, it was the last stop on the tour. I have the shirt for it. They left shirts for all the staff, but I did not get to go to it, and I don't remember why. We did have, and you may have seen me wearing the shirt, Kyle. We did have some of World of Warships, what's the word? Social media personalities, I guess. They worked for them, but they're no longer with them, or else I think most of them were no longer with them. Happa Fodder is one of them, is his handle. Sea Raptor is another. I did a couple of live streams. First live streams I ever did were actually with those two guys. And our tech, same day as a parade, that was probably the reason why I stayed the hell away from there. Yeah, Sea Raptor and Happa Fodder were actually two of the first live streams I did with anybody. It was with warships. And our tech at the museum was the bleeding dull edge, back end edge of technology. So we had an iPad that our business manager hooked up to Discord, I think, or what's the other one that links in with Discord? James, do you know?
Oh, you got me.
It's something the gamers use. And guys, I apologize. I don't game. I'm a video game addict from way back before all this was networked and online and everything. And so I have to stay away from this stuff. Otherwise, playing with the digital kid, I would not be able to keep my job with the real kid. So that's why I'm not as versed on it. Yeah, we're looking, through this iPad.
Yeah.
They're filming me.
Anna's probably right. It's probably Twitch.
Twitch, yes. Thank you, Anna. Discord and Twitch, he was linked in through it. I couldn't see anything that was going on. I could not see Happa or Sea Raptor or anything. All I hear is their voices through my headphones, and I'm staring at a blank iPad screen. So this is much more enjoyable what we do, James, than I enjoyed working with C Rector and HAPA. I've been able to link up with them nowadays afterwards on social media. But yeah, that was just me kind of looking, kind of like going, I don't know what's going on. All I can hear is voices, and boom, here you go. Here's the answer.
Thank you, Leopard, for the $5.
Hey, Leopard. No, Kid was never in the lead in the division. She was in Desron 48, Destroyer Squadron 48. The squadron leader was Stembel, USS Stembel, Stembel. And in that, you had, in the squadron, you had Destroyer Division, Desdive, 48, which matched the squadron number. And then the second squadron was double that. So it was Desdive 96, which was Kidd, Black, Chauncey, and Bullard. And I want to say that either Bullard or Chauncey was the division leader. I'd have to go back and look, but it wasn't Kidd and it wasn't Black.
Chauncey and Bullard were the other two when the attack happened, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I had some other. I'm gonna just show. Well, no, we talked about real quick before the stream earlier today that the ship also appears in another game called War Thunder, but it's not Kidd. It's a Fletcher class, and I guess someone created a skin for
Could
Kidd.
be. Could be. I only recently discovered War Thunder, and again, I don't play it because I'll lose my
Nor
job.
do I. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the picture I saw, it looks like maybe an early mod Fletcher, because it's got the round bridge and everything. But then there's something way back on the back of the ship that just on the deck house where Mount 45 is, that just looks to me like some sort of Cold War thing. And I just need to go and look at some of the early Fletchers and see.
Steve,
Steve's
you
back.
have impeccable timing because Tim, unless you got anything else to add, I think we've about covered it. What do you think?
As far as gaming, I mean, the only thing I can tell you is Kidd has been used for the Destroyer Command video game from the early 2000s. That was the first one we were involved with. And then World of Warships came along in 2013. And then apparently maybe there's a skin or something, as you were saying, James, about War Thunder. And then the latest one to come out is on the Steam platform. And correct me if I'm saying that wrong, but it's a Polish group that visited us after COVID, and they put together a game called Destroyer the U-Boat Hunter. And I'm not sure if it's out and running now or if they're still just putting out trailers, but they were getting very much in depth to where you're going to CIC and you're going to Radio Central and you're going into the pilot house and handling the controls and everything and mapping out on the DRT, on the Dead Reckoning table in CIC, mapping out, I want to, go this direction and I want to fire torpedoes this way and all that. It was very interesting looking. They did a really good job replicating the compartments, the look of the compartments. So I'm tempted sometimes to go and try to download it and see where they're at on it, and then I'm like, nope, I gotta stay away from that. So
Bring it in.
I'll have to live vicariously through you guys if y'all want to send me screenshots of or video captures of how that game plays.
I got one more video, Tim, before we close things out tonight.
Okay.
We discussed this before we went live. It's not video game footage. It's something else, of course, kid related.
Okay.
So for all of you that have been here tonight, and whether you dipped in or out and you've made it to this point, congratulations. We have a little something special to show you guys. You ready, Tim?
Ready? Fire.
Let's do
You may
this.
fire when ready.
Let's see.
Name that movie or movies. 2 movies.
I've heard that line in a lot of movies.
You may
Anyway.
fire when ready.
So let's take a little look at Kid here.
Looky.
Look at this, guys. Oh, look at this. Well, she looks a little different, doesn't she?
Kyle got it. New Hope.
Ah, Tarkin.
Extra points for the second movie.
And Tim, I know you don't like it, and I know your reasons, and I completely get them, but she looks awesome.
She looks nice and clean.
She looks amazing. So, I mean, I'm just like, wow. Just wow.
And there is an error there that we've already reached out and it's already been fixed.
Okay.
The tops of the stacks, like the flat part.
The blue caps.
The caps
Okay.
are blue, and they shouldn't be blue because there
really?
wouldn't have been anything to paint blue back there. So,
yeah, because they would have been open. So what are they? What are they doing with that then?
They've already converted them to black.
Okay, excellent. So that happened.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate that. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to leave nothing undone before we take her home. Nothing that we can't already do in Baton Rouge. So
right. So speaking of which, anything else in dry dock going on that you can share?
Well, what you just saw it. When I went down last week, they had finished painting the decks. They were coming around, and I was supposed to get some pictures for Shane. At the Sullivans, he's done a video talking about the entry and exit points for Mount 52's handling room, how ours is on the port side and Sullivan's and Cass and Young's is on the starboard side. So that's something he's taken an interest in, and he did not get any photos of that when he was down here in March. And he asked me if I could take some photos next time I went down, and I couldn't do it. I had to let him down. I said, I'll have to wait another 2 weeks before I get it, because they were painting the dogs and the ladder rails. So you had things have kind of wound down. We're almost done with the first contract. There's only tiny little things done at this point. And so they were going through and just doing all those little touch-ups. So yeah, the hatches that I needed to photograph for him, I couldn't do anything with because they were wet, and I'm like, no, not messing that up. So when I go down next week, I'll take care of that. But yeah, the contract is almost up, so we should have word hopefully any day now, knock on wood, if our fundraising efforts have come to fruition. And there you go. Frost up. Let me know when you come, Mike.
Real quick, you said the first contract is almost up.
Correct. If our fundraising efforts come to fruition, then we will have a second contract worked up, and the handful of things that we pulled off of the first contract when we found that the hull needed more work than what we expected. Once you get in and blast, there's stuff that pops up that you don't know was there. So there were some thin spots that blew through once you put it under pressure, which is good. You want that. You don't want to put her back in the water and then have it pop up, 6 months down the road.
Right.
So we adjusted the original contract, took some items off to free up those funds to take care of the hull, because the hull was the first most important thing that
Yes.
we needed to take care of. And when the state gave the money for it, they said, take care of the hull. These were the two big things they said: take care of the hull and put the steward's berthing back, like you've described to us, because they took an interest in that, which really surprised
Good.
me.
Excellent.
But they
That's
were
good.
really interested in those two items, and God bless them for it. So yeah, we took care of the hull, but there's a few more things that we can do that will not kick the can down the road to our successors in the years to come. And if we get the funding for that, then we'll make a new contract for that, and we'll probably end up leaving the yard in November. That's the hope. So everybody say a few prayers, hit the donate button, and we should know something within a couple of weeks.
And I don't know if I've ever mentioned, but I just really got to say props to my home state here for giving the money, for having the foresight to see that this is a project that is worthwhile. Because I was listening on History X, Museum Ship Mafia the other night, and I know you were there too.
Yeah.
They were saying something to the effect of there were 3 museum ships on the Canada side of the Great Lakes, and now they are down to 1 because of one reason or another.
Lake Superior specifically,
Superior.
I think. Yeah.
So it just shows you how, I don't know how else I can better emphasize it, thank goodness we still have the kid. We're going to have her for generations more.
Yes. That's the goal. That's the goal. And I can't say thank you enough to our legislature for agreeing with us, and also to the people who had the foresight, and I don't know who did it, but the people who had the foresight to do an economic survey to show kids' impact on the state and on the city and the immediate metro area, that for as much government money as or I'll say for as little government money as she has gotten in 42 years, the impact economically that she's had drawing tourism in and putting money back into the economy. For somebody to think of that ahead of time before we went to ask, that is invaluable in making the case to the legislature, saying, hey, this isn't you just throwing money into a hole in the water, which is what a lot of people look at when they talk about boats and ships. And so we were able to say, for this amount of money that you've invested in 42 years, look how much money we've put back in. And they looked at it and they're like, it's a smart investment. Sure, we'll do it. So God bless them.
Absolutely. And on that note, and I know you don't like this, but I'm gonna give you your props here. You were just as responsible for that as anyone. You have recently celebrated your 30-year anniversary at the museum. So everyone in the chat, please give Tim a little love. I know he doesn't like it when I do something like that or when anyone does that, but give Tim a little love in the chat.
I appreciate
congratulations to you.
I have been very beneficial with the number of people that have shared their knowledge and experience with me so that I could put together for the kid and keep going. But I think you're friends with me on Facebook. You saw that I phrased it a little bit differently. I've avoided being fired for 30 years.
Yes.
Because, when you're the guy that stands up there and this is what they hired me to do, right? They hired me to be a tour guide originally at the beginning, but eventually when they made me ship superintendent, my job is to stand there and do what's best for the ship. And when you have folks come along and say, what do you think the Navy would say if you put this big plaque, honoring this guy, blah, 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 from 1986 or whatever, on the side of the gun? And I'm like, the Navy wouldn't say anything, but I'll quit. Because it's not 1945, and your predecessors said this ship is going to be 1945. So find another place. So when you're the guy that stands up and goes, stop, you're not really the popular guy, So so I've avoided being fired. I'll say it that way.
Well, that's in my opinion, I think that's a good thing. So
Let's hope I can avoid it for another 10 or 12 years, depending on what Social Security lets me retire at.
I don't even want to imagine the museum without you, to be honest.
Well,
Don't.
you know, I appreciate that sentiment, and folks in the chat, thank you so much for all your kind words. But I can say this: when Tim Rizzuto left in '97, I kind of felt the way you did, and we survived, you know, and Tim still was available for phone calls. I'm shocked he takes my calls because I've burned up so many hours long distance on the phone with him over the past 30 years. But you know, Jesse Eves stepped in and filled in and did a fabulous job in his own way, and safeguarded the ship. And then Bob Holt behind him. And when my first director left, people were like, the place is going to implode. It'll never survive. And the next director came in and revitalized it. And then the next director and the next director. And I say all the time, God loves the kid. Parks gets a kick out of it. He kind of laughs when I say it to him. And now he's kind of beginning to echo me. Well, Tim says God loves the kid, and you know, well, this is an example of it, because when a pivotal person with the project leaves, retires, passes away, whatever, it seems like somebody with a similar skill set, but slightly, you know, has maybe an additional set of skills that this person didn't have. They come in and fill their slot, and then a new challenge arises that first person might not have been able to handle because his or her skill set was slightly off center over here, and this one is right on target for what's going on at that point in time. And it's been that way since I've been there. And there's always somebody that's going to pick up the baton and pick up the ball and keep running. And it just seems like the right person at the right time shows up each time. So it's a team effort. It will always be a team effort, and one person leaving will not destroy the museum as long as we stay on target and we put the ship as our main focus.
Well said. I have nothing to add to that.
And everybody who's donated, by the way, even if it wasn't tonight, if you donated previously, James, you seem to like come to Baton Rouge to deliver an envelope and buy merchandise like every 5 seconds, and we appreciate you. And we appreciate everybody that's been donating this past year and even before that. So thank y'all so much.
And for the record, we have raised $170 for the museum tonight. So everyone who donated, thank you so much. Yes, round of applause to all of you. Thank you so much.
There is indeed an online store. We call it a museum store. We've got away from calling it a gift shop because that just seems to be the trend lately. But yeah, go to USSKIDD.com and click on store. And we've got a lot of stuff. We're trying to revamp the store a little bit so that we can get a new platform and we can kind of do some of the stuff that USS Texas has been doing with souvenirs for fundraising and everything. So we got some cool stuff that's coming your way online if you hang with us for a while. What was that?
You guys also have a Patreon.
We have a Patreon. It's brand new. And we've got a book club in the Patreon. So there are 3 levels. The first level is boot camp. I think it's $5 a month. And then duty station is $10 a month, and battle stations is $15 a month. So we have kid hats. In fact, you're going to have to pick the kid hat you want, Mark, because we have multiple 661 USS KIDD Veterans Museum, or like James is sporting the stereotypical Navy ball cap there for the 661. We also have the KIDD 993, and we have the KIDD DDG 100 as well. So for Louisiana folks, we've got USS Baton Rouge hats, and we've got USS Louisiana hats, both of those submarines. So
quick story before we wrap it up. So when I bought this, I mistakenly bought. Oh, we got another super chat?
He said, make that 190.
Make that 190. Thank you, Booms. We appreciate that.
Sir Booms a lot, by the way, is related to one of our 38 crew members that passed away. That
Wow.
died in the attack.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
Bernard Kostelnik.
I'm gonna have to. Do you guys have a picture of the crew on the website? May have to look that up.
Not on the website, but if you go to that video that Anna was referencing,
Okay.
you can find Bernard in there. And Bernard, if I remember correctly, was the one that if you go on the Facebook page and look up the Kamikaze Remembrance from 2018, I think Bernard was one. Thank you, Kyle.
We did it.
$200.
Thank you, Kyle. Thank you.
Bernard, I want to say was the one that Tom Hanks stepped in. He was supposed to not even get on camera, and he stepped in and laid a flower, a carnation in the river for Bernard, if I remember correctly.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. You don't even recognize him. It was years before anybody recognized him from that video. And in fact, nobody has mentioned it in the comment section for that video. Nobody has ever mentioned it. Some of the family members, not survivors, but some of the family members from the 38 reached out, and they're like, please tell him that we really appreciate him participating. I'm like, I don't necessarily get to talk to him that much, but I'll try. So,
right.
And I was successful. I got to tell him, relay their appreciation, which he really appreciated. So
I got a quick story behind this hat before we wrap it up. So I don't think I did the museum tour the day I bought this hat. I just happened to be in Baton Rouge for some other reason, and I'd been wanting one. So I just ran to the museum real quick, grabbed the hat, and took off. I get back home. I open up the bag, and I think I bought this challenge coin at the same time.
Okay.
And it's the hat for the 993, not 661. And I'm like, oh, no disrespect to the 993 whatsoever, but I was intending to buy the 661. And actually, I texted you, and I was like, dude, I'm such an idiot. I meant to buy the 661. I bought the 993, and you're like, do you have the receipt? I was like, oh, toss the receipt. And you were cool. You were like, don't worry about it. As long as it's not used, which it wasn't, we'll swap it. And I was able to go back the next time I went, and I swapped that and got the 661.
I enjoy the fact that it took a long time to get it, but I enjoy the fact that we've got the two Louisiana, the USS Louisiana and the USS Baton Rouge hats in there, and the two other kids in there, just for those hats. We've talked about trying to get some shirts and everything, but unless people buy enough, there's really no point in going all in on that. So they've maintained the hats. Thank you, Steve.
Hey, we got it. 220. Thank you, Steve. This is a record for us, by the way.
Thank you. We appreciate that. But yeah, it's a talking point for people in the store, because they see these other kids and like, there's more than one kid. It's like, oh yeah, and it's then you're educating, and then they're like, oh, there's a USS Baton Rouge, there's a USS Louisiana. How many Louisianas were there? And more education taking place.
Absolutely. Tim, I'm spent. You got anything else you want to add?
I got nothing, man. I confess, and I told you, I'll tell you tell the chat, but I told you in private, I'm like, I don't really know that we can make a live stream out of this, because I don't game, so I don't know what I can do. But you had faith in it, so and people have tuned in and have donated as a result of it. So thank you for coming up with the idea, and
my pleasure.
and poking me and going, we can do this. And so, and again, I'm mystified when people tune in and listen to me drone about the ship. So
have faith in the ship nerd community.
I do have faith in the ship. I do have faith in the community. If you had asked me before the ship went to dry dock, if I would be live streaming as much as I have been this year, I would have laughed at you. I've been like, no way. People aren't interested in listening to me drone on. So, but yeah, I enjoy getting together with people and anybody that wants to talk about KIDD, I'm always, or history, just, history in general. I'm game to talk about it. And you and I we've been dreaming up some local history stuff to be doing, hopefully this summer. So
yeah, and we can discuss that some more off screen as well. So I think that's going to do us for this week, guys. Again, as just to echo Tim, everyone who's donated tonight, thank you so much. And of course, everyone in the past, whether you've donated on the live stream or via the website, however you do it, thank you guys so much for helping the museum out. It is much appreciated. And with that, we're going to say good night, everybody.
Farewell, folks. Thank you. Have a good weekend.
And happy Friday the 13th.
I need to watch that tonight.
Me too. Take care, everyone.
Good night.